It's starting. We'll let it buffer. All right, we are live. So fun. Okay, let me click this button over here. Jane Butler is our extraordinary guest right now, everyone. And I am so excited to welcome Jane to her interview today because Jane is a dynamic women's health and wellness coach. And that might not be the exact title, so please correct me, Jane. But Jane has her own coaching called Individually You Coaching. And she is now an author, which is, I can't wait to share more about this today. But Jane, can you just take it away and introduce, your official titles if you would like, but also tell us where you are right now in the world.
Well, thank you, Ashley. It's been quite a journey getting here, and I can go into that later. But I'm here currently in Florida, and for those of you that probably from the UK who, like me, think the sun shines constantly in Florida, it's not sunny today. It's typical British weather out there. So originally, I'm from London in the UK. Found my way out to California 10 years ago, and now I am about to take roots in Florida. So my background is very much rooted in the health industry. So I went to nursing school at the ripe age of 19. Always wanted to be a nurse, funnily enough, and I often get asked, well, how did that come about? And as a child, I was diagnosed with a heart murmur, so spent a lot of time in hospital under investigations, etc. And it's a really silly story, I guess, to be fair. But I was in the Royal London Hospital, and I absolutely loved, as a little girl at 5, how these nurses were dressed. They were old style uniforms. They were, if I remember rightly, a very pale pinky mauve stripe with the apron and the frilly hats and everything. So as 5-year-olds, I used to go, oh, and I wanted to be a nurse. I mean, it's so strange, really, because roll on 40 odd years later, and I actually ended up as a consultant nurse for the group that the Royal London Hospital was in for cardiac issues. So it's a really weird sort of, yeah, how I got there. Anyway, that's me going off on a tangent and digressing. So where am I now? When I moved to California, it was like, do I still look at being a nurse? And I thought, no, there was some obstacles in the way, primarily needing to relicense, which is not the issue, but the money that was wanted to really to retrain was ridiculous. So I thought, well, what can I do? And taking my skills that I had, I came across health coaching. Well, I'd never heard of it before, so I looked into it. And enrolled in a health coaching school, IIN, which was my first training. And I got so hooked on it. It was a completely different dimension to the nursing, but it still had those skills that I'd honed for years. So I followed that through. And did a couple of other trainings in relation to coaching because I just thought, the more the merrier, the wider, and to expand my horizons. And then the question came up with who are you going to coach? And it's so different from when you train as a nurse because, hey, there's big hospitals, there's a job, etc. And so for me, it's like, okay, so where are my clients going to come from? So I enrolled in yet another course, how I was going to set my business up, where I was going to get my clients from, etc. And one of the big questions at the time you often get asked is, what's your niche? And I was like, I don't know. I can help all sorts of people. But constantly there was niche down, niche down, niche down. And funnily enough, at the time, I was going through menopause myself. Well, I was going through perimenopause. And I thought, hey, this is a good group of people to consider. So truthfully, I didn't know a huge amount about it. But anyway, long story short, I went into looking at menopause. And honestly, it's opened my eyes. It really has, because when I went through menopause myself, I had no idea I was going through menopause. And I'm embarrassed to say that because as a nurse, with all those years of experience and skills, of course, I'd heard the term menopause, and within cardiology, I knew that as women hit menopause, their risk for cardiovascular disease totally increased. But beyond that, I didn't know much more. I thought maybe there's hot flushes. maybe not much more than that. So that's really embarrassing. Um, so really that's how I came to look at health coaching and menopausal women. And as I went through more training, really to educate myself around menopause, my eyes were opened because, as I said earlier, when I went through it, I'd never even heard of the term perimenopause. And I remember some of the symptoms that I had, which were true perimenopausal symptoms, the constant heavy bleeding, visiting my doctor, and a few other things came out. I was hypothyroid. I needed some top up with iron, etc., which I sort of thought normal, okay with that. But when he said to me, "Oh, this is going to go on for 10 years or so," I was like, "What?" Nobody ever told me this. So again, through all this sort of continued study, looking at the deeper aspects of menopause, really opened my eyes, and I knew that I was in the right place to coach women going through menopause. So actually, sorry, that's a really long story of where I'm at and what
Oh,
I'm doing.
I love how you share because it makes everything so much more relatable when you know more about the person. So it's a perfect way to start the interview. And Jane, I've had the honor of having you inside of my abundance community to speak about sleep specifically. But
Mm.
when you broaden, that niching down gets us, man. If you are in any sort of coaching or sales or marketing, you all know, and go ahead and put it in the comments if you catch this replay or live, because it can feel like it's like taking away some of the spark because you're like, but it's all related. It's all related. And when you speak of it that way and you realize that it's self, right? It's self that,
Yeah.
that had to experience it to then know that's
Hmm.
what they tell us all the time. It's always you as of whatever, or your personal journey, and so you got to experience that. And I
Yeah.
think that that's beautiful. I do have some questions and I'm going to read them because I always want to make sure I stay on track with what I have in mind. So Jane, can you share what inspired your passion for supporting other women through midlife? So, yes, you experienced it, and yes, you felt maybe some embarrassment or whatever, but what inspired you to actually take what you were experiencing and even a little bit of embarrassment around and share it out? Why not just keep it personal?
I think it was because going through the perimenopausal part and not realizing it was perimenopause because I didn't really have the traditional symptoms of menopause. And by that, I mean everybody tends to know the hot flush side of things. So, and I mention it in my chapter in the book. As I said to you, we moved out to California. And at that time, I'd also undergone a redundancy from my position. And moving to a new country, leaving friends and family behind. I just became a new grandmother. So it was a case of, oh, all the things that I'd anticipated at being around family had all changed. So I found myself in California, which should have been an amazing opportunity, both for me and for the family. And to a degree, it was. But the funny thing is, I woke up day after day crying, no
Mm.
interest in anything, couldn't muster any enthusiasm. Um, and of course, like women, we figure it out in our head. Well, you've just moved country. Of course, you're going to be weird about this. Um, you've not you're not working at the job that you loved and you trained to do. That's no longer there. So who am I? What am I doing? And all of these things kept going through. And honestly, Ashley, I didn't connect the two as being a perimenopause symptom. So, and this is really on reflection, but how great is it when we can look back and reflect and totally understand things?
The only way to understand it is to look back. We don't
Is
know what's ahead.
exactly.
We can only learn from back there. So, yeah, that's
So
beautiful.
the point being is coming back to your question is not understanding myself, not knowing the other, maybe less talked about symptoms that ladies find themselves in. It was like, no, I get to share this with people because honestly, I felt so lonely and isolated at this point. And any of the general research that I did showed up with those regular things, oh, you're going through menopause if, and it listed a handful of things. So the hot flushes, the sleepless nights, loss of sex drive, etc. And, a few of them you might be able to tick, or, you then find excuses for, well, of course I'm not sleeping well. I'm in a new situation, etc., etc. Anyway, I'm digressing again, do a lot of that. Um, but pulling it all together, I thought, there's a lot of ladies out there that do not know and do not understand. So my quest initially started out to help to educate women on this. Um, and then I also thought, well, there are plenty of things that we can do for ourselves, really, to make a difference, in the sense of we don't have to suffer in the way that perhaps we all thought we did. And like
Mm.
my doctor had said to me, if I remember the words
And you.
correctly, it was, my dear, this is what you ladies have to go through. And I was like, oh. So it was really taking all of those concepts, putting them together and thinking, if I've been struggling, chatting to friends and family, I realized other ladies were. And it was like, no, this gets to change. We get to be a community of like-minded females who want to experience menopause in a much more positive way and use it as an opportunity versus a woe is me and end of possibilities. Because I now see it through educating myself about it, understanding what can be done, that this is an opportunity. And I know you guys were talking yesterday about your word for 2025, and I
Yes,
couldn't get there.
yes.
I was busy traveling across the
No worries.
States.
Do you
But my
have your?
word is opportunity, because that's what I
Oh,
see next year opening up for me and for a lot of other women that get the opportunity to really use their menopausal journey as an opportunity versus um, an end, a failure. Or these are all the sort of words that I hear women saying, and I see it as an opportunity.
I was going to comment on that before you even shared the word. I make notes when people are writing because I want to be here, but I don't want to forget. And you said a few times, and I just want to highlight, that's what makes this community so extraordinary is, Jane, the way you're sharing it. And this is my fifth interview, and every single person that I've interviewed and all the replays that I've watched, we are very in tune with our vocabulary in this group, which is what makes it so extraordinary. It's not on, you're not going through life on autopilot, accepting that this is just how it is. And then when your doctor said, my dear, this is just what you ladies go through, it's like, huh? I
Hmm.
do not accept that. Thank you, but
Hmm.
no thank you. And I
Yeah.
think that that is extraordinary. That is not ordinary. And when you notice what you're doing, you tuned in and you're like, well, it could be this excuse, it could be this, it could be this. Or it could just be that I get to experience this new section of life and then I get to share it. And it's the word get. It's not this awful thing we're going through. We're still living. We're still very much alive, right? And so just so much goodness, and the opportunity is, you're looking for it. Then when that is your word, you are looking for it, you are inviting it. It's going to be a beautiful 2025 for you, Jane. I can
Oh,
already
I
tell.
hope so. And for many other women as well, because given this
Yes,
opportunity
yes.
also to get involved in writing the book that I've just done, there was 22 of us that joined together and wrote a chapter about our stories. And what I think is amazing about it is it really opens up and highlights to everybody, not just women, to men who have female significant others in their life, to understand that
Educate.
menopause is so different and so vast for the female population. And as I said to you, when if we're not careful, we can put ourselves in boxes, and that's totally not the case. This book really opens up how 22 women went on their menopausal journey, how it was for them, how different it was. And often you'll hear the stories in the book that it wasn't this traditional approach or experience that often gets thrown out to us. And I love the fact that really over the last, oh gosh, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years, that menopause has started to come out in way more of a prominent topic. because yes, things have been trundling along in the background, um, but really the highlight with a lot of celebrities has brought this to the forefront in the last 4 to 5 years. But we're still struggling with stuff because I know when I speak with a lot of my ladies, with my clients, they are still embarrassed about things. They're still confused. So this book is, in my mind, is magical because it is 22 different versions of the menopausal journey. And again, my research shows that there's over 100 symptoms that can be related to our hormone shifts at this stage of life. Think about this, Ashley. When we were younger and we were going through puberty, all of the changes that were happening to us then, and everybody sort of took that as like, that's okay. We know about this. This is puberty. We all expect it. Yes, maybe a little bit of sniggles, if you'd started growing your breasts, etc. Um, but why are we not doing this with the opposite end, the other bookend? Menopause. We should be talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And when
I
you bring
just
that
see that
awareness,
there's
you bring acceptance.
such a need. Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No, no, no. This is a conversation. It goes back and forth. I love it. No, I was just saying when you bring that awareness up front and all the different ways at which it becomes for people, it just brings that acceptance to it and brings a little more fun to it. It's like this is a whole other phase of life. Lucky that we get to live through menopause. Many people die in their adolescence. We
Yeah.
are lucky. Everything is a gift. So I love it.
No,
Um
I sorry. The other thing I
yeah,
really want to pick up on is what you just said about the fun side of things, because
yeah,
it's
where
really
I was gonna go
interesting.
with this.
No,
I
but
love it.
I come across a lot of people who want to be so serious about it. Okay.
Yeah.
And of course there is a serious side. Um, but let's try to make things a little bit more light-hearted, because the more we focus on the serious side, that's when we start to um, lose ourselves, I think, because we all have an element of fun about us, cheekiness. It's our personality. And if we can make some fun of this, if we can make light of it, it just means we can enter into the arena from a much more heart-centered place. And by that, I mean we get to explore, we get to be curious with things versus the blinkers down and this is all very serious and oh, we get to medicalize. No, 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 we're humans. We're going to go through this, like you say, if we are blessed to live long enough, we're going to go through this. And yeah, there can be some really, excuse my language, but crappy times. Okay. But that's when we get to understand this, we get to get together in a community and we get to share what works. Now, there is no one magic pill. I hate to say this, there is no one thing that works. Okay. We're all individual. And that's really why I created my coaching business as individually you, because there's themes, there's concepts that can be applied totally. And my style is very much back to basics, understanding our body, being able to reread the signs that come up. But then the difference comes in with our individuality. And that's like what works for me might not work for you, etc. And we find this if you start chatting with your girlfriends, there'll be things that they do, and you go, right, I'm going to do that tonight. Oh, that didn't work. But it doesn't mean to say there's nothing out there to support you. There's so much. And it is about going out and trialing.
Yeah, and even going from that statement, and again going back to the doctor that just couldn't relate. It's finding community that's really powerful, right? Because like you just said, you won't find things unless you seek it, or unless you're in circles of people who are
Yeah.
experiencing it as well. I mean, if you're hanging out with people that are a lot younger than you, they might not be going through menopause. Well,
And they're also not
that's not their life
interested in it. They're not
right.
interested in it. And quite rightly, I get that.
Yeah.
I guess so. I feel like I'm on a mission really um to move menopause forward for everybody. If we're taught about puberty at school and then there's the sex education, etc., etc., we should also include menopause because it is part of the journey of life. Um, yeah, so I get very passionate about it purely because I think there is so much more we can get involved and do.
Yes, I love that. And it goes to the same thing like I remember the first time I was pregnant and I decided to have home births, but I remember I was like, what's going on here? What's this? What's this? And then you have the baby and you're like, no one talks about this stuff. That
Yeah.
these beautiful underwear that they were going to hand me. Nobody told me there was some pretty underwear coming my way. No one told me this. So it's funny though, you can bring light heart to it. So I love it. Jane, I do have another question I want to ask you. And you already briefly touched on the book, and we'll bring that back in, and your coaching. So I want to ask you, midlife is often seen as a time of loss or decline. And I'm passionate about this because I'm all about movement and exercise and finding joy in it. But yet your work and the book encourage women to redefine it, midlife, as a period of growth and possibility, hence your word opportunity. So how do you inspire your clients to embrace this perspective versus just educating them on this is what might be happening and these are the things, but how do you inspire them to embrace that perspective that midlife is it's a period of growth and possibility?
I think that really comes into the coaching element because, yes, I could stand up, I could lecture, I could educate, I could inform, but I think the difference comes with coaching. And coaching, obviously, I learnt the difference between coaching and nursing, for instance. And for me, coaching is all about supporting somebody who has some form of objective or goal to achieve that themselves. Because if you achieve it yourself, it's lasting. If I give you the information, then you'll take that in. You might remember it today, you might remember it tomorrow, next week, maybe a month's time. But when life starts to come at you, there'll be things you'll forget or you fall off the wagon, as the saying goes. But when you coach somebody, it's about supporting them to find the answers themselves. Now, that sounds a little bit contradictory. Of course, I have the answers for some people. I have the opportunity for some people. I have the guidance, the signposting. But coaching is very much around helping somebody to help themselves. And so it's taking that journey with them. So what I find is group programs that I run are great because there's the community side, but I also like to include with that some one-on-one coaching because it's that individuality, it's those finer points that we can explore together. So it's about understanding what you might want, what your goals are, and for the menopausal lady, it might be just to get some sleep. I can't sleep. I'm fed up with the lack of energy. So then we explore what does that mean to them? And what's the possibilities? What have they tried already? What hasn't worked? Maybe why has that not worked? What's underneath that? So it's that delving deeper with somebody. And it's not therapy by any means, but it's one of those when you start thinking and people ask the right questions of you, generally you have those sort of answers inside.
Yeah.
And it's about actually being truthful with ourselves because I can remember having sleepless nights, and I know we had those conversations ourselves. And when I spoke with your group, when I really got to grips with what was going on with some of my sleeplessness was a little bit of procrastination, sleep procrastination, as they call it. And that was because there was things that I wanted to do for myself. Sounds really silly, but if I wanted to watch a particular Netflix episode, nobody else in the house did. When was the time I got to do it?
Right. I know so many women that can relate to this.
Or, you might want to read a book, or
Right.
there's something, so you put your sleep off. And it's not always the fact that you can't sleep, or it's you've got that monkey mind going. So we can explore those things. So coming back to your question, yes, there's some education, and I think we can all benefit from education, but trying to do it in a fun way too. And then the real difference comes in with the coaching. I honestly believe that because it's about building that relationship with a person, helping them find themselves again. Because, as we said, lots of people get to menopause and think they look back at what they either haven't achieved, they get into a very negative spiral, what they
And we're
haven't
focusing
done.
on what we don't have versus what we do
Yeah,
have. Yeah.
totally. And so it's about recreating that as like I say, the opportunity for where we're at, taking this time to slow down, read your body, and yeah, we might not be able to make babies anymore. And that could be a whole different conversation. I totally understand that. But for some people, that's a freedom. So let's explore that and then look at maybe some of the symptoms that are coming up. So coming back to your original question, for me, it's all about the coaching element and the conversation and getting into that relationship.
I love that. And that's as a I think a natural born coach, teacher, mentor in my mind, I just love to teach people. I love seeing them. It's about empowering them,
Yeah.
right? And so it's when you said you're helping them achieve it for themselves. I think that there's so much power in that, and that when we are looking for a coach or when we are in coaching or whatever, if we're feeling stuck and we are like, what can we do? We get a coach, but it's not somebody that we may sign up for something thinking I just need them to tell me how to do it, right? Because in the moment you're like, I just need help. I want to figure this out. This obstacle, I want to move it.
Yeah.
But when you're in it, the best coaches are the ones that are empowering you to figure it out. They're believing in you. They're instilling the mindset to get you to clear the cobweb so that you
Mhm.
can get from the focus of not what you don't have, but to what you have. And Jane, you do that so beautifully. So thank you for that. Now I want to talk about the book. So can you tell us the name of the book officially?
Oh, doesn't want to come up.
There it
Here we
is.
go.
Yes. Redefining menopause. Look at the cover. It's
Yes.
so gorgeous. It's so gorgeous.
Well, tell you about the book. I came across the opportunity to get involved in this um, several months ago, and I seriously thought, do I want to? Do I want to share my story? But then it came back to my original concept, as I said to you, without sharing my story, I'm not enabling, empowering other women. So I thought long and hard about what I was going to share because I only had a chapter. I mean, it's now inspired me to look at writing my own book. But what was I going to pick out for this chapter? And it was really about my story, as I said earlier. You know that there's 22 stories in there, and for me, it was about being real, some vulnerability in there, um, and really that strength of the book is because it's from women across the world. So it's not just all
Collective.
totally, it's just not all American women or British women or whatever. It is from around the world. So we do have a concept of different cultures in there. And again, that's an interesting thing with menopause because if you look around the world, women experience menopause differently around the world because of the cultures behind us. So the book is great for really sharing that. As we said earlier, there's some fun elements in there. So, you'll read through some of them and bring some tears for what people have been through. Then you'll be giggling with some other stories, thinking, oh my gosh, I'm glad that's not me. Um, but the other thing that came with this book, the group of authors really connected together. And I've made some good friends from actually writing this and met up with one or two of them. Interestingly, it's only been released since, oh gosh, November came out the ebook, and the hardback came out a couple of weeks back. And I've had the opportunity to actually meet a couple of these ladies in person. And again, coming back to the book, as I said to you, with the design on the front is one of the
Yeah.
authors. One of the authors is she does a lot of artwork, and so she designed the cover really to represent the dance of life that we go through with menopause. So yeah, I mean, there's just so much magic that is tied up within this book, that I've got to express some things, and it has become a bestseller, which is amazing because I never thought that I'd be able to say that I was a best-selling author on Amazon. So that's funny. Um,
Opportunity.
I know, right? I also want to come back and say it's not about me. I
Right.
did this for me because I didn't do it for anybody else. I did it because it was something I wanted to do, something I wanted to share. And as I say, the connections that I've made has been fantastic. And it has opened up opportunities for so many other things. That's why I've chosen the word. So yep, you can buy this on Amazon as an ebook. You don't need a Kindle. I think it's put up as Kindle. And currently I think it's still something $1.99. So I mean it's less than a cup of coffee, which could change your life. Or you could get the hard copy, the paperback, and hey, buy one for your girlfriend. If you're
Oh,
stuck for a gift at Christmas for the girlfriend that you think has everything, hey, why not?
I love it. Jane, it's so good. And I haven't gotten my hands on the book yet, but I was reading the back, and the things that I wrote there is that, it emphasizes connection and community as vital elements of thriving during menopause.
Mhm.
And you said that you have now become very close friends with some of these authors. That's the beauty of community and connection. And that's all we ever want, especially right here on this Be Extraordinary Network, is to build another community. There's many out there, but something that's not just for authors or just for coaches or just for entrepreneurs. I mean, I've invited my own extraordinary women into this group that are not entrepreneurs. They're everyday moms. They are homeschooling moms. They're family members of mine that I know are absolutely extraordinary. And so it's remembering that we are extraordinary. Menopause is extraordinary. It's a gift. It's an opportunity to dive deeper into self and to learn and to give grace and to show compassion for yourself and for others. And your book is beautiful. The artwork is stunning, but the book is beautiful. And I want to ask you one last question, Jane, as we wrap up, and thank you for your time. But what is something extraordinary about menopause? Because that's your forte, and that's what the book is about. So I was going to say, what does extraordinary mean to you? Because that's what I've been asking other people. But let's keep highlighting the beauty of this phase of life. So, what is something extraordinary about menopause or perimenopause?
I think it has to come back to that word opportunity. Um, because I would say all women are extraordinary. When you think the possibilities for us, what we do, we often get caught up in if I don't have a huge big story to tell, like I was the first woman on the moon, that we're not
Mhm.
um, valuable, that we don't have anything to offer. We all have so much to offer. And so I would say the first part is being extraordinary is being female and the opportunities that we have as being female. And I'm not men bashing here or
No,
anything
no,
around
we
that. I'm
love
just
men.
talking
We would, yes,
I'm
no,
just
none of
talking
that.
about the physical body, about what you can do. Um, and coming back to menopause, why I think it's extraordinary, like you say, you only get there if you live long enough. And it is that opportunity to take a look back at who you've been, what you've been doing, and it's a time to pause and think to yourself, what have I got? Where am I going? If I haven't achieved what I wanted to, why is that? Do I
Mm.
really want to do what I thought I wanted to do? And if so, why not now? And moving forward, menopause has been had this umbrella of symptoms that we get. And yeah, of course we get them. And that's why I do a lot of coaching. But it's a stage in life. It's a stage. When I say to slow down, I don't mean, oh, put your feet up and, stroke the cat or anything like that. What I'm saying is it's a time to slow down and think about who you are as the
Individually,
female,
you.
being me, being individually me, individually you. What is it you want? So for me, menopause is an extraordinary situation to be in. It's not rare because half the population will go through it if they live long enough. But it is that opportunity. It is the possibility to know you can reinvent yourself. You can put yourself into a position that you can work towards what you've wanted to do. And that could be anything. For some people, it is totally changing jobs, changing relationships, stepping up into new relationships, endless possibilities. So I think what is extraordinary about menopause is it's an opportunity for you to reevaluate.
Man, Jane, I'm just going to share this, and I hope it doesn't make me sound super ignorant, but I am not going through menopause. I am not going through perimenopause. And when you say it this way, for someone who has that to look forward to, I want to thank you, because no one in my family or in my personal circle has ever talked about menopause at all, period. It's not even a conversation. The only people I've ever talked to is friends of their students of mine, and their moms are going through it. And they're like, oh, Ashley, let me tell you. And they tell me about the symptoms. And when you say it like this, where it's a moment to pause and a moment to just kind of see, like, where are you? I feel as though it's a checkpoint. And if you can reach, it's like if I'm playing the video game with my kids, if I can reach the next checkpoint, like, look at me go. And so you share it right there as it truly is extraordinary. And it is such a beautiful thing to be able to pause in your life and say, all right, checkpoint. Now what?
Mhm.
Opportunity becomes vast. And so, Jane, my gosh, what a beautiful definition of extraordinary for menopause. And thank you for sharing it this way.
Well,
Thank you. I get to
that's
look
great.
forward
Thank you
to
for
it.
the opportunity. But I also want to make sure I'm not minimizing or avoiding some of the symptoms that women go through.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
because they are very real, and there is, as I say, over 100. But again, it's about getting yourself educated, connecting with people. If you need a coach, hey, there's plenty of us out there. Please connect. And I'm not touting for business. I'm wanting to connect with people
Yeah.
to point them in the right direction. If it is coaching, great. If it's something else, fine. But it doesn't need to be the frightening, scary stage we're at. It is if you try to do it alone.
Yes, and I've heard that from many people, the moms that I was just referencing. It's they feel alone, their husbands don't get it, the kids are too young. I don't get it because I didn't, and no, not minimizing anything, but knowing that it's just part of life and not making it bigger than it needs to be either. That
Hmm.
it's just a subset of things to what can also be amazing. And Jane, you are truly extraordinary. I know that fitting this interview in today amidst your travels and right before the holidays is what it is. It's an adventure. You're absolutely gorgeous. Thank you so much for your time. And for anybody who wants to connect with Jane, one of Jane's dear friends as well has just put here in the chat for us the link to her book. So that's already there. So you can check that out. It's on Amazon. And then Individually You Coaching is Jane's coaching. So again, everybody, the extraordinary is abundant, right? We are all extraordinary, and the gifts that we get to experience in life are what we make of them. So, Jane, thank you again for your time. You're
Thank you,
incredible.
Ashley.
And
I
I
always
will,
love chatting to you.
I know it's so fun. All right. So I will end this video, and everybody have a beautiful rest of your Thursday.
Bye bye.